Greetings, heathens. Welcome to Hail Satan. This is the podcast exploring Satanism, culture, and life in general through the eyes of modern Satanists. My name is Joseph Rose. I'm a member of what is still the finest congregation in all the land, even after all these years, called Satanic Delco, and we welcome members from anywhere in the world. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, visit satanicdelco.com. And before I forget, let me just mention one thing. If you're an up-to-date listener who listens to new episodes shortly after they're released, you may have noticed that my schedule for releasing new episodes has been a bit off lately. And basically, I'm just here to confirm that, yes, the schedule has been a bit off lately. It doesn't mean anything. I'm not moving to a new schedule, and there isn't really anything behind it. In some cases, I've been delayed by potential guests, but mainly I've been busy with other things, primarily with other creative endeavors like my band. My band has been a lot more active lately, and it has required some of my time and attention. So going forward, when I have a new episode, I will release a new episode. It may or may not be a week or 2 or 3 weeks after the last one. I will let passion be my guide rather than a calendar. I hope that's cool with all you guys. Today, I'm going to take a look at an essay called Pentagonal Revisionism, a 5-point program. It was written by Anton LaVey back in 1988, and it gives some insight into what is truly important within the Church of Satan. First, let's say hello to a bunch of cool Satanists that have joined up with us recently on Patreon. We've got Tim, Mandy, Patrick, Anthony, Karen, Courtney, Lyndon, Jack, Brandon, J. Cool, Sierra, Fortech, Keith, David, Drake, and Jimmy. Thank you guys very much. You know I appreciate it, and your support makes all of this possible. So really, thank you very much. If you all have a moment, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. You'll find links to join me on social media, a form to send me an email, and a link to join up with us all on Patreon. We have a few different tiers to choose from with various benefits, including the amazing Greetings from Hell Satanic Postcard of the Month Club that is still going, and that is the most direct way you can support me and this show. If you'd like to do that, visit hailsatanpodcast.com. All right, guys, we're going to dig into a 5-point program from good old Anton LaVey to see what it's all about and if it has any merit or value for Satanists today. And this isn't just some random throwaway essay that Anton cooked up one day. This is presented as a plan to move society in a certain direction. And it has been followed up on by the current head honcho of the Church of Satan, Peter Gilmore, as well as Blanche Barton in their own writings. So this is serious business for the Church of Satan people. Joining me to evaluate and offer some perspective on this essay was supposed to be a reverend in the Church of Satan. But that dude kept dropping the ball and bailing out on me. So instead, we've done even better. We are joined now by renowned Church of Satan expert, Jerry. Welcome, Jerry.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you? Are you excited to get into this topic?
I'm apprehensive, but
apprehensive.
At first, I'm always very apprehensive.
Why is that? You're a confident man.
To read the rantings of a madman. And we did the whole Church of Satan Bible thing,
Satanic Bible,
yeah. And that was fun, but a lot of that was extreme. You
find it was extreme?
Anton LaVey has very little tolerance for bullshit.
He does sort of. Well,
can I curse on this?
No, we can never use profanity.
He has very little tolerance for poppycock. He does not wish to have his time wasted.
Yeah, we're not going to be saying any fucking profanities up on this bitch.
Thank you. So this sort of follows it, but I find this is a lot more succinct than that book. This actually has. There's not much that's wrong. Again, the aggression towards the meek is still here.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Christian religion, you were supposed to embrace them. He does not do that.
We're going to get into the whole essay, and piece by piece, I will read through the essay for all you guys. You can follow along with it if you've got it over there, or you can just listen to me go through it. Your impression overall is that you find it, sort of reasonable, grounded, whatever?
There's not much here that's wrong. There's some things that I didn't understand. I had to have clarification through you. But there's not much here that's out of line. And we'll go through why. It's just like a healthy guideline, like your 7 tenets are rational. And this 5-point, there's some points there's some things that don't age well, but they're not out of line.
Well, you'll find one difference maybe that I always see that separates TST philosophy and Church of Satan philosophy is TST stuff is designed for mass appeal. Mm-hmm. They want it to sound pretty good to the most amount of people possible. And the Church of Satan's whole vibe, and you'll get some of that from this essay, but overall, their vibe is the opposite, really, of mass appeal. Their vibe is elitism.
Exclusivity.
That is, we don't want this to appeal to everybody. This only appeals to the elite, to the very few intelligent, sort of super people that can vibe with our elite shit. And so that really, you'll see a lot of Anton and Church of Satan language generally be much more focused, whereas TST's is more generalized, broad strokes. We like compassion. Mm-hmm. The way that you could simplify and maybe strengthen the 7 tenets and just make them a more succinct package is if you just had one tenet that said, we strive for all that is good and are against all that is bad. That's what the 7 tenets say. Mm-hmm. Now, what is good or bad to any individual person? Well, let's not get into specifics where this could all fall apart.
That's all perspective.
They just leave it very general. Hey, compassion is good. Well, yeah.
But wouldn't you find, I find that this is more along the ilk of the Christian religion, where it is this Old Testament mostly is that I said this and this is the rule you follow. It's easier for me to consume than the TST because it's broad. Like you said, it's vague. This is not vague.
The sort of pros and cons of that are that
alienation. First off,
yes, you're gonna rule a lot of people out. Yeah. If you're Church of Satan and you say, first of all, if you want to join our thing, it's $250 or whatever it is, $200+. So right there, that's going to rule people out.
That's a medical marijuana card.
They, and then some. Yeah. And when you write the kind of things that they write in the Satanic Bible, in this essay, and all along, then it's real easy for the people that don't vibe with that to be like, no, I'm not down with that. Right. Fuck that. I'm not into whatever Anton's selling over there. Whereas TST, again, all of the real answers aren't presented to you in any specific way. It's more like, well, it's all open to your interpretation. However you want it to mean, that's what it means.
And that's very
because
modern.
You got to sign up for that marketing list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a very modern take.
Right.
A very modern take. And I find that the great in between there is the Christianity. Because Christianity has these hardline rules, but then they're one of their things is that you have to convince people to accept Jesus. So you have to rationalize a lot of these rules and obligations and teachings, and then you witness, where Satanic Temple does not witness. They put their shit out there, and that's that for that.
Yeah.
And TST puts it out there where everything seems like, yeah, I'll do that.
Right.
And so it's a great in between. And I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I love the juxtaposition between all three of these entities. And I'm not even going to get into like Buddhism.
The three entities would be Church of Satan,
the ones I know,
TST,
and
Christianity.
And they wrestle. They wrestle because these are the ones I know. Right. I don't know much about Islam. I mean, I do know, but not enough to be not enough to have a real opinion. Right. Buddhism, any other type of religion. But these are the ones I've been exposed to my whole life through music.
Right. Yeah, well, generally here in America, where we live, we don't have to be faced or think so much about things like Buddhism or Islam or most other world religions, because Christianity is so big and sort of powerful and bleeding into every corner of American existence. That's the deal. And that's TST's big deal is, they're fighting on the front of sort of religious politics or the connection. But that's a whole other can of worms. Don't get me started.
All right.
All right. So overall, you're sort of into this, but we're going to dig into the actual essay here. So I will begin, and I'll just read this intro sort of paragraph here. This is Pentagonal Revisionism, a 5-point program by Anton LaVey. In recent years, we've wasted far too much time explaining that Satanism has nothing to do with kidnapping, drug abuse, child molestation, animal or child sacrifice, or any number of other acts that idiots, hysterics, and opportunists would like to credit us with. Satanism is a life-loving, rational philosophy that millions of people adhere to. Now, we're ready for something that goes quite a few steps beyond just explaining our principles. Every revisionist movement needs a set of goals or guidelines that are clear, concrete, and that will affect significant changes. The following 5-point program reflects attitudes which allow others to decide whether they wish to align themselves with Satanism or not. Each is necessary for satanic change to take place. When asked what we're doing, here's the answer. At this point, Anton goes into each of the 5 points, elaborating on each one. So we'll go through each one of his points one at a time. Anything stand out to you in that intro there? Or?
Yeah, it did. Again, exclusivity. You don't have to like this to be part of it, or not to be. You don't have to like this, but if you want to be part of this, you have to. Whereas in Christianity, you have to like this to go to eternal bliss. Yeah. So this is
one thing
take
that
it or leave
really.
it.
Sorry, the one thing that really stood out to me right toward the end there is he says attitudes which will allow others to decide whether they wish to align themselves with Satanism or not. So he's going to give you these 5 points, and he's saying, if you're not into these things, you're not into Satanism. That's what it kind of vice versa. He attaches. That's why I said early on that this isn't just some willy-nilly little opinion piece thrown out there. This is presented by Anton as an integral part of his satanic philosophy, the philosophy of the Church of Satan. So if you are a member of the Church of Satan, if you are an adherent to Satanism, as the Church of Satan calls it, or LaVeyan Satanism, as many of us others call it, then that means you've got to be aligned with these 5 things. So know that they are important if you are out there in the world of Church of Satan.
It's the closest thing to sales that this guy's ever done. He's
Maybe
giving you it's witnessing, and it's not very polite. It's sales and
Right.
sales and presentation, and it says in 5. It makes it easy, man.
Yeah.
It makes it easy, and I do appreciate that.
Well, let's get right into it. Number 1 is stratification. The point on which all the others ultimately rest. There can be no more myth of equality for all. It only translates to mediocrity and supports the weak at the expense of the strong. Water must be allowed to seek its own level without interference from apologists for incompetence. No one should be protected from the effects of his own stupidity. There we go. Short and sweet, Anton, on stratification.
And when I read this, I don't know why I thought of David Goggins, Goggins.
Yes.
This alpha male,
Yeah, I love Goggins.
outlook on life, and
He's a stay hard guy.
Yeah, he's a stay hard guy, running all the time. What are you doing? You're weak and all that.
Stay hard.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So when I read this, it felt like I do not believe in a myth of equality. I don't think there is equality.
Well, why don't you summarize what this one means to you and why this is an important idea for the Church of Satan?
For me, it's be your better self. And I know that it's worded really harshly, and it's hard to use the word equality and be not non-abrasive. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be people who don't feel equal and this or that. So it's difficult. But I do see this mentality through people who achieve the typical version of achievement. Be better. And if I can apply it to my own life, where as a salesman, what did you do wrong? Okay, that's why you didn't succeed. And so like it might not be the definition of this particular thing, but for me, I took from it is try to be your best self. Don't be weak and admit your flaws. And again, it's only from my own personal experience. And because when I fail, it's because I did something wrong or I stupidity. He says it effects of his own stupidity.
Right.
I am allowed to fail in my life now.
If you're failing and suffering the consequences of your failures,
my decision.
That is your responsibility.
Right. Like gambling. Like say I over gamble. I spend my rent money.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna be homeless. That's the effect.
Yeah.
And while I don't agree with the wording of it, mediocrity, equality, I do see the value in it. And so you have to be your best self. And in so many ways, that's sort of what this says.
Yeah, I connect stratification with meritocracy. I tend to think that stratification is the result of meritocracy. You live, you perform, and your results naturally place you somewhere in the strata. I like the idea that we're rewarded based on some sort of objective reality. Someone who is really good at a thing is rewarded differently than someone who sucks at that thing. It's not always that simple or perfect, but I think that's the general idea.
Do you think this leaves any room for learning how to be good, or is it just this, like learning how to be something?
Yeah. Well, you mean just
training?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't think any part of it is like you're just born this way and you're either good or bad.
Right.
I don't think it's saying that. I think all of us are born and then we got to do our best.
Right.
You could really go either way. You could go any number of ways.
It's an everyday thing for me. Every day.
And assuming we all start from a perfectly equal level playing field, this idea really works, I guess. The essay says there can be no more myth of equality for all. Is there any consideration for the reality that we don't all start on a level playing field in life?
That's where I wrestle with it.
Right. And that is an area that I think, most people will find Anton's philosophy generally, you could call it harsh. Mm-hmm. I wrestle with lots of Anton's philosophy. You did the Satanic Bible stuff. There's good stuff. There's questionable stuff. There's stuff that's just too far out there. There's all of it. And this is an example of that. He words it in the edgiest way possible. He doesn't go into great detail of saying, well, this is good, this is bad, this is acceptable, this isn't. He doesn't go that detailed. But people that want to interpret this in the least charitable way or least positive way will say, yeah, look, he's drawing a hard line. He's saying, if you're not just born of the elite, and then you turn that into what? The elite race, the elite, whatever, body types, or you name it. There are some people that would interpret it that way, and they could interpret it that way as a good thing. They could be like, yeah, elite, fucking Aryan people are the greatest. They could do that kind of bullshit. Yeah, or they could use it as a way to shit on the Church of Satan. They could be like, oh, see, that's what they're about. That's what they mean. Mm-hmm. Now, both of those people, the pro-elitism crazy guy and the shit on the Church of Satan people, they're both making assumptions. They're both assuming which way Anton meant it, and they like that or don't like that. Mm-hmm. And they'll both color it whichever way they like it to suit the thing that they like. And so that's why you can get some people that are into those harsh ideas saying, yeah, this is for me. And you'll get the people that are, much more into equality, equity, all the different things to say, yeah, Anton's out of line. That doesn't work for me. As far as your own interpretation of this, does this idea run counter to something like affirmative action?
It does. It absolutely does.
It runs counter.
The myth of equality is the thing that gets it there, and,
right.
And to make things equal is a handout. Now, not a handout. Now, I take that back. It is trying to give people opportunities that don't generally get them. I saw this a lot in my previous position as a Section 8 property manager. There's a severe disadvantage for some of these cats. People will just bring people in just to talk to them so they can check a box. It's not the best thing in the world. It just isn't. So I don't, as far as that, that's a gray area. I think people do deserve these opportunities. And that's where this becomes quite challenging, because there are people born into shitty situations they can't get out of. Inner cities, or you look at people, a lot of people from India work themselves out, but they come from extreme poverty. This doesn't lend itself to that. Like, I'm able to get where I need to go. But there are some who do get out, and this is the counterpoint, through being exceptional. But where it was as who I am in my life, I didn't have to be exceptional to succeed. I was average, and average me has been okay. Now somebody has to be exceptional to break out of a real bad situation. Somebody like cats from India. I mean, think about these shacks these cats live in, and then raise themselves up to captains of industry, and versus the ghettos of our country.
Right. So you like the idea of stratification, or don't let me put words in your mouth, but the idea of a meritocracy. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I think that if you work hard, you get where you need to go. But there are certain advantages I get, and you recognize this in your own life as well, sometimes as a white man in America.
Sure.
And I'm not guilting myself. There's no white guilt here, but I do have these advantages. I've been in cars where black men are pulled over just because no one knows why they're pulled over.
Sure.
So these are small things, and this is where I wrestle with it. Where I think, yes, this is, you be your best self. You're not equal, but once you come to that realization, you're not equal. Then you have to strive and be better. And that's...
It's complicated, right?
It's very complicated.
On the face of it, this is all pretty simple. He wrote one short little ass paragraph about stratification. And there's so much... Like I said, my gut reaction is I like a meritocracy. I like who should be admitted into this college or whatever. Well, obviously, the people with the best grades. Who should get this job position? Well, obviously, people that are the most qualified. Right. Whoever's the best should get the thing that's the best. Who should get paid in basketball more than Michael Jordan? No one. Right. Ever, bitch. Okay? But that's the way
look at how
it should work.
It is.
Right. You know? But then you get into all the details of life. Like I said, not everyone begins on an exactly level playing field. And that is a reality of the world. It also mentions in that one supporting the weak at the expense of the strong. We can interpret that in the most obvious, basic way related to like physical strength, but is it safe to say that probably isn't really what it's about?
It's a group mentality. It's tying an anchor to oneself.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
There's a lot. This can be a show into itself, merely because it's got a lot of layers, and they're just the myth of equality. While I like the idea in my own flat playing field, I don't think it works when I apply myself to other people's situations.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for stratification. Should we move on? Number 2.
I don't know.
What? What's the matter?
I don't know. It's just. I think you do 5 shows here. You know.
I know. I mean, that's a complicated issue. We could work through it for probably the rest of our lives. The whole world has been working it out. Strict taxation of all churches is number 2. If churches were taxed for all their income and property, they'd crumble overnight of their own obsolescence, and the national debt would be wiped out as quickly. The productive, the creative, the resourceful should be subsidized. So long as the useless and incompetent are getting paid, they should be heavily taxed. Is this one just as simple as it sounds, Jerry? We should tax all churches.
I think it's a profession. I think the people who work in the churches should be taxed for sure. If you get money, you should be taxed on it. Now, a lot of your tithing is charitable. And that's a gray area in itself.
Yeah.
You don't know, you're supposed to give 10, 20%, 10% of your.
I think 10% is a standard tithing, income, but I could be out of date with that.
I would be very pleased if there, how many Catholic parishes are here? Boston, Philly.
Yeah.
There's so many. You know, and they acquire so much. The robes of the Catholic Church are thousands of dollars.
They got nice robes.
They're beautiful robes. If you talk about like
pomp, I would like a nice robe like that.
Me too. Pomp and circumstance. LaVey put it in his little dark world. Well, I see as a dark world because it just is fire, naked women. It's fun to look at. And then you have the Catholic Church, which isn't too far from it.
No,
they have all of the gold balls, things. The little ball that shoots water on the dead people.
Yeah, they're not usually into the women so much, but still.
Yeah, they're not. They keep their distance from women. But so
I agree. I agree with LaVey on this one. On the face of it,
he wants to get taxed.
Well, yeah, the Church of Satan's stance from the beginning has always been this. They believe in taxing the churches. And because of that, they have chosen to avoid being tax exempt.
When I thought about this, though, I thought about Scientology. I wonder if they are tax exempt. I don't know.
I believe they probably are.
They're big enough to be tax exempt.
Yeah, I'm certain.
And the cat, his name escapes me, the creator of all that, was quoted as
L.
saying,
Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard was quoted as saying, and believe me, I researched this. It's a good racket. Like I'm paraphrasing, but if the only way to get ahead here is to start a religion or a corporation of sorts, and that's what Scientology is. If they're tax exempt, there's money there.
Oh yeah,
in the name of Scientology.
Oh, they're huge.
There's money,
they're huge.
yachts. It's happening.
And making churches tax exempt represents, I think, a fundamental mixing of church and state.
Which
let's
is
say
one of the few points here too. There's another one that comes up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we always make the comparisons to the Satanic Temple when we're talking Church of Satan stuff. And in TST's early days, they felt the same way. They said, we want a separation of church and state. We believe churches should not be tax exempt. We're not going to be tax exempt. Well, then they found out they actually could get tax exemption. They got approved for it. And so then they quickly changed their tune. Like, no, we want a pluralism.
I didn't know that.
If they can be tax exempt, we'll be tax exempt too.
Bro, I mean, what? We watched that movie.
The Hail Satan documentary.
Satan, documentary. And how far
I
have
use
they...
documentary loosely.
Yeah, how far have they gotten away from that original playfulness of the whole thing?
It's night and day.
It is super different, man. I mean, they think of it. Now you're a business. I think
it always has been, yeah.
Yeah, but now that's sort of disgusting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. In the early days, and you can find it. All this stuff is out there. They have archived versions of the old versions of their website and the old versions of the tenets and everything. And yeah, they were pretty clear that they didn't want tax exemption. They were against it, and then they changed their tune and got tax exemption. So, Church of Satan, I do respect the fact that over the years they have stuck to their guns. They have remained true to their word, and they believe that strict taxation of all churches is the way to go. And so they go ahead and pay their taxes.
Can you imagine taxing Joel Osteen?
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah, well, and Anton writes in here, they'd crumble overnight of their own obsolescence and the national debt will be wiped out. So while I think that is an exaggeration, I don't think, they let's assume not every church. Of course, there's a little church on a corner somewhere that gets by, and okay. But so many churches, they have enough money. Taxes are based on a certain percentage of what you're doing, right? It's not a flat tax. And so the better they're doing, the more they just have to portion out for the taxes, just like everybody.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, just like every other business out there. That's just the way it works. And for the government to say, okay, you believe in a special fairy tale? You don't have to pay taxes because of that. No. What the fuck are we even doing? Why is that even a thing? I'm with Anton.
Wow.
Tax the fucking churches.
Well,
the satanic churches too. Stick to your guns. If that's really your belief, then live that, Let's move on to number 3. We good on that one?
A big one, yeah.
All right, number 3. No tolerance for religious beliefs secularized and incorporated into law and order issues. Anton writes, to reestablish lex talionis would require a complete overturning of the present injustice system based on Judeo-Christian ideals, where the victim or defender has been made the criminal. Amnesty should be considered for anyone in prison because of his alleged influence upon the actual perpetrator of the crime. Everyone is influenced in what he or she does. Scapegoating has become a way of life, a means of survival for the unfit. As an extension of the Judeo-Christian cop-out of blaming the devil for everything, criminals can gain leniency, even praise, by placing the blame on a convenient villain. Following the satanic creed of responsibility to the responsible, in a satanic society, everyone must experience the consequences of his own actions for good or ill. All right. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one, Jerry. It feels like a direct reaction to something, but it's also kind of all over the place.
What I took from it was one being that you have to swear in a Bible. That's the one first thing. Separate that, get that out there. That's the one thing when you go on stand.
Yeah.
The second thing, what I took from this is that he This is 1988. This was put out, right?
Yeah.
So 1988, and Anton, I don't know how old he was at the time. He grew. There was a time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where there were an insane amount of serial killers.
The 70s really had a moment.
The devil made me do it. All of this shit, Richard Ramirez, that guy.
Yes,
he did not do you guys any favors, you know. So I think that's
guys.
Yeah, I think that's a real issue. I think that's what it feels like he's lashing out at. So like separate that. Take that the devil made me do it mentality out of it. This is just a guy who killed a bunch of innocent people. The devil had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And so that's where I took it. And of course the swearing.
I don't get the part. He keeps pointing out this stuff about the victim or defender has been made the criminal. Mm-hmm. I don't exactly know where that's coming from.
That might be personal experience. I mean, how many lawsuits has he dealt with? Has this?
No, I don't even think that was an issue.
There was no lawsuits in the church. I guess they weren't too happy back in the 80s and 70s.
No.
So I don't know.
Satanism didn't have any connection to being sue happy until the Satanic Temple. There was no lawsuits. That wasn't really a thing.
To me, this is.
There were legal things against Satanists or against random people, I should say, accused of Satanism.
Right.
Things like the McMartin preschool trial, and then much later, things like the West Memphis 3.
There you go.
You've got people in a courtroom talking about Satan as if Satan had anything to do with anything. It didn't.
Well, then it's also the flip side of that is that Christian Science, where parents were letting children die and pray.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
Thing. There was that, and so I don't know if that was a thing when this was written. So it's hard for me to.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a reaction to something, but I don't know what that specific thing that he was reacting to is. He doesn't actually touch on it.
To make it black and white, I believe it's just the swearing on the Holy Bible, and of course. Adding a character to somebody's defense, and so it's you know what I mean? Because if I could say Darth Vader, chop the guy's hand off, I wanted to do it, but no one would do it. But if I said the devil, I was listening to this and that, there would be some level of credence given to that.
Well, and I could imagine if there's these trials, somebody goes and does Ramirez, somebody does something bad, and they're like, "It wasn't me, Your Honor, the devil made me do it." Mm-hmm. And then they get off. Like, oh, all right, well, it wasn't his fault. The devil made him do it. I could see if that were a rampant problem, now, okay, we've got to stop that. But I don't know of any instances where that's a thing.
I'm going to make it, even taking it out of the law and order thing, if I could just put it in my personal life into something that people thought about. Again, I'm going to cite this divorce, right?
Yeah.
People thought, some people in my family thought it was my dabbling in talking to other people who are Satanists, damned. The damned, that it had some level of effect and influence on me.
I feel it did.
Well, great. There you go. Well, yeah. I guess in the long and short of it, if you were to look at it in a microscope, yeah. But
there we've done it. We've proven Satanism is the cause
of all issues. But no, but
the breakup of the American family.
While the person I did whatever I did with was part of that. I don't take a look at these things. I don't consider myself a Satanist, but I could easily say I was under the influence of the devil, and that's why my family's broken. Yeah. And the people who are Christians and all that stuff would see that as a reasonable explanation for.
And they would let you off the hook with no child support.
Cheating on the child support would still be there, but they would see that as a reasonable explanation. I cheated on my wife,
right?
Because I was under the influence of bad people.
That's true.
So that's. I think there's something there in there. Yeah. I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I saying that right?
I don't know. Part of this one seems to say that religious beliefs shouldn't be made into law, although there's naturally going to be some overlap between religious or Christian beliefs and common sense in the law.
Morality.
Things like not killing people, for example. Would LaVey be advocating for there to be no overlap between secular law and religious beliefs? Probably not. He's so anti-Christian much of the time. You go through that Satanic Bible, and I think we probably pointed it out a lot, or I did, that he's just anti-Christian. Mm-hmm. If Christianity says this is bad, then he says it's good. Whatever the 7 deadly sins are, we like those. Do those. Even though, in reality, Christian beliefs say you shouldn't kill. And to me, also, coincidentally, common sense law probably should include you shouldn't kill people. Right. That probably should be illegal. And it just so happens that Christians also believe that's not good, to kill people. So it's not like we can just be anti-Christianity when it comes to putting ideas into law. We're not, on one hand, we are maybe secularizing religious beliefs into law, but there's going to naturally be some crossover.
Definitely.
But we certainly should not take religious beliefs and hold them up just because they're so important because they're religious beliefs and incorporate them into law. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, if it was illegal for me to covet thy neighbor's wife, well, shit.
Right. Or you've got to hang a cross on your door, or you've got to do this, or you can't wear this, or you can't do that. Those kind of things would be really troubling.
Sure.
And there already is too much integration. There is. Really, almost any is too much.
But what you say, morality, you play with, it's just, again, another difficult thing to decipher.
Yeah.
And you think it's just a throwaway comment. It's not. None of these are really throwaway.
Yeah, so much of it is sort of simple on the face of it. Just no tolerance for religious beliefs, secularized and incorporated into law.
Easy. Boom. Done.
Sounds easy, just like stratification, just like any of them. But really, you can really get in there and they do become...
Get in the weeds.
A little more difficult.
Like a lot of this is like you could get canceled for some of the thoughts that you have. Maybe
of course. Jerry, nowadays, I don't know if you know, but you could get canceled by some group of people for almost any goddamn thought you have. If you just say it, there's some nerd out there with a Twitter or a fucking Discord or whatever that is like, they said this. Let's get them.
I've said a lot of shit on this show. That could probably fuck me up.
Yeah. I just don't give a fuck anymore. Fuck these nerds.
I mean, how evil can I be? I was a slumlord at one point. I'm a car salesman now. I'm uncancelable.
Yeah. You're bulletproof at this point. All right. So what did we get out of this? I don't know.
Nothing.
What did we get out of this one?
It's just, to me, this is a wish rather than a revision. This is just something he wants.
Yeah. And he reiterates the satanic creed of responsibility to the responsible, which I am totally with him. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly am into that one. I believe that is valuable and sort of the way it ought to go with everyone. But I don't know. I'd love to have some insight. I wish so badly I could just talk to Anton. Mm-hmm. I want to ask this motherfucker, what are you saying here? What were you hurt by? What are you reacting to in this one? Because it feels like something specific was the seed for this. And I don't know what that thing was. And I would love to understand
Why do I feel like he'd get angry with you asking that question?
He would.
What the fuck?
He'd be defensive about the whole thing.
Yeah, you should be. This is just what it is. Do what I do. Do likewise.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's that one, guys. Number 4, development and production of artificial human companions. Here we go. The forbidden industry. An economic godsend which will allow everyone power over someone else. Polite, sophisticated, technologically feasible slavery. And the most profitable industry since TV and the computer. Correct me, Jerry, if I'm wrong. This one is just calling for robot slaves.
This is his 1988 outlook, right? Nowadays, this is wholly feasible. This is something.
What do you mean?
You can have an AI-generated robot slave.
Well,
not generated, but you can have something.
Not yet, right?
Not
We're
yet.
not there.
We're close.
We're getting there.
Tesla's got something going, I'm sure. But like this is, and I wrestle with this, man, because I have seen Terminator.
Yeah,
I know what I don't know. It freaks me out, man. I don't want to. I don't agree with this. I don't want I don't want a robot slave.
Really?
The only robot I want is my vacuum. I have a vacuum robot, and it vacuums, and it's great. It does what it's supposed to do. And it says politely, I'm going back to charge, and it charges, and I let it eat.
Now, what if, all right, you're sitting there. You're sitting in your apartment, you're hanging out. Mm-hmm. Maybe your little robot's going around doing a little vacuuming.
Yeah.
What if you were just like, hey, you know what, robot? I'd like a drink.
Yeah.
How about it goes and gets you a drink from the fridge? You like that?
I don't know if I want that.
Really?
I don't. This is a thing for me. This is me. And maybe all of you guys want a robot. Yeah. I understand you want your robot. Everyone wants, what's the Jetsons bitch name?
Wow, Jerry, we don't use that kind of language here.
My language.
She was a nice robot.
What is Jetsons?
Rosie.
Rosie the robot.
Dare you.
That thing has unspeakable strength.
Yeah, it'll kill you.
It lifts up tables. It does what it needs to do. I don't trust it.
Yeah, Rosie will kill you Immediately.
Insanely. She's heavy.
Yeah.
She's fast. She's obviously agile. She has one wheel.
Yeah.
And she can go. So, like, no, dude, steps might fuck her up, but I have a feeling she'll just fly down and kill me anyway.
They'll figure that out.
She'll figure it out. Do I want that? Because eventually whatever you enslave will enslave you.
Right.
And I believe that.
There's two things about
I think he wants a
this.
sex robot. This is me just saying it. I'm just going to say it. Go out and say it.
Well, yeah, 100%.
He wants a sex robot.
Yeah, and you'll find chatter online about this stuff. They're looking for a sex robot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've seen
There
it.
are two things that really stand out about this, two most obvious things. I haven't read every word of LaVey's writings. I've read a bit. But based on what I've read, this one really stands out to me as random and out of left field.
Super.
Like, he talks about, a few different things. There's the elitism, there's all this stuff. And then this one just really, out of nowhere, is like, also robot slaves. Just what?
No.
What?
No, and that's the problem. That this is, things make sense, and then out of nowhere, this shit will come up, and you'll be like, oh, this is just some dude.
Yeah.
This is just some guy talking.
Well, and then, so that's the one. It just feels random in the canon of Church of Satan or of Anton's writing.
If he was against it, I get it. Don't enslave anything.
He's down. He's down.
Don't enslave anything. And
It's just a robot.
We've talked about this personally. I don't like AI. It's fucking up everything.
Stop it.
I'll tell you why. Because if my kid goes on Chat GTP, types in GPT, whatever the fuck, I don't even know what it's called. I don't want it.
Yeah.
And she just types in like, was it some historical figure, and gives her, and you can give it the tenor of it, and it will write you a whole paper on Stonewall Jackson in a forgivable light,
right?
And it's beautifully written.
It might have some incorrect facts, but it'll do a nice job.
Hey, you're talking to that guy. Yeah. I don't care if it's accurate or not. It just got to sound good.
Yeah.
And so like I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. It makes you, if it goes right, it completely goes against stratification to me. Because to me, it makes you weaker is to have a robot sex slave or robot helper. You can't do that shit yourself. Now I understand if it's going to do code, if it's going to do like the more technical things that you're not capable of, but it does not jive with me if it works with your everyday life.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that stood out to me was his choice to use the word slavery specifically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Inherently, a slave is forced to do things against their will, right? An assistant is one thing. A helper, a digital partner, maybe. LaVey is specifically looking for technologically feasible slavery.
And he wrote godsend, in quotes, of course.
Yeah.
An economic godsend. So
he put that in quotes. That was sort of, we know what he means.
And power.
But he's saying he's looking for technologically feasible slavery. He's not saying a partner. He's not saying a helper. He's not saying an assistant. He specifically wants slavery. And that comes with a power dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. There is a slave and a master. Yep. And I don't know. Do you find that to be just more of his use of edgy language, or is it coming from a more, I don't know, mean-spirited or specific place?
I find that it would be hard. Most people who have these things, like doing the car thing, people will name their cars. Oh, that's Ruth. That's this. They'll assign a meaning to it, and they'll put heart into it and give it an emotion. And when you put slavery in it, you're separating that. There's nothing good. There's nothing human about it now. Yeah. And I don't name anything.
Well, yeah, and you know me. I love shit like technology, gadgets, artificial intelligence. I really love it. I fucking love a gadget. I've been wanting what does Anton call it? Artificial human companions. I've wanted an artificial human companion since I was a child, probably when I saw the Jetsons or something. I've wanted a robot. I want a little robot dog. I want a robot helper. I want something like that in my real life. It doesn't exist yet, and it's really annoying. I want to see it in my life.
You can get a basic version of a robot dog.
No, I want a real good one.
Yeah,
I want one that I can say, go get me a drink.
Well, you will learn to love it.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. In my thoughts throughout my whole life, childhood through the present day, I still want it. I've never once thought about it in the context of, I want to be mean to this thing.
No.
I want to have a slave that I can treat poorly in my home. I've never thought that. I thought, wouldn't it be fucking awesome if I had an awesome robot friend, robot helper, whatever it was, that would help me out. Help me carry this thing. Help me put this together. Grab me a drink, please. Get me my weed.
Yeah.
Like, just do something.
How
Please
could
feed
you be-
the dog when I'm out
How
today.
could you be mean to R2D2? R2D2 is so
Right.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah,
get
it never
more
occurred to
functionality.
me to make them a slave. I want them to be like my fucking loyal pal.
You know what though? What is that sculpture? There is a beautiful, beautiful sculpture somewhere in Europe. It's defunct now. But it used to. It would take. It was a shovel essentially, and it would try to put its hydraulic fluid back into itself.
Oh.
And it was the saddest fucking thing. When it started off, this thing was dancing. It's massive. It's like 12 feet tall, dancing, having a great time.
And you don't know what this thing is? I don't know about this.
The name escapes me now. I'll look for it.
All right.
I'll look for it. And if you post in your links, it's absolutely one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see. But in the end, it can't keep itself together long enough. It to survive, it has to keep putting the fluid back into itself, or it will cease.
It just can't do it.
It eventually just ceased. But
Really?
you saw it age.
How long did it take?
I think it took a couple years.
Yeah.
But like, it was so sad.
That's interesting. Was it meant to fail?
It was meant to fail
Yeah.
in the end.
Yeah.
It was done by an Asian artist, and I don't know who. God, I wish I could think of the name of it. It's the most beautiful thing you see. If you look it up online, it'll come up easily. And to me, that's what it is. Like that's what slavery means to me.
Yeah.
Like an eventual, like this thing's helped me out so much. It does what it did. It served its purpose. Now I'm gonna throw it away.
Right.
And I can't do that with something that helps me.
Yeah.
Like
Like if I had a good robot assistant,
I would try to
an
keep it
actual
alive.
robot that like got around and did stuff and could like move through the house, I would want to make sure it's in like pretty good shape.
all the time.
Yeah, keep
Forever.
that shit like up on the maintenance.
But we're being trained with these phones to not do that.
Mm.
It dies every 3 years.
Planned obsolescence.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so like I don't like the
I
word
guess
slavery,
the robots would have that maybe.
but then they'll get aware of
Yeah.
how
Tesla's going to make this robot. They're
They
making
are.
a robot. They're making, what are they calling it? Optimus, I think. Optimus, this AI robot. and I think they're going to do it.
They're going to do it because they have the technology of Osimo, which was it was Honda built a robot called Osimo, and it was a helper too. It would dance
Yeah,
and do
the
some
one
shit.
that Tesla does, they've shown it off and it takes sort of a humanoid form factor. And I think the first thing they're going to do with it is put it in the factories to do some of these real repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
And they've shown real just basic. They're early on. It's not like ready to go or anything. But they've shown some of these early stage demos of it, the way it's using computer vision. It's using vision the same way Tesla cars use vision. And I think it's going to be wild. I think they're going to do it, and I think it's going to be crazy.
You can't push it. I've seen these things get pushed, and they
Yeah.
have to regain their balance.
Oh,
And
yeah. Some of them do well with that. Not all of them have that.
It's so sad when it fails, though.
Those Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, those
They're
guys-
getting good with some of the pushing and the obstacles and all that. It's,
God,
it's getting wild out
It would
there.
break my fucking heart to do that as my job.
But yeah, these Church of Satans, I'm not going to say that, Church of Satan is really geared toward and attracts lots of incels. You can make that assumption on your own if you want to. But this is going to be great for that crowd because they do want a sex robot. They're going to be mean to it. They're going to slap it around and they're going to have a lot of sex
but
with
it's
this
your
robot.
friend. There's a whole movie called Cherry 2000. Just to get off
that right?
And it's Melanie Griffith. It's one of her first movies.
Oh,
and
and she's up to some business in there, I bet.
Well, she's not the sex robot.
Okay.
She's a bounty hunter helping this guy locate this kidnapped sex robot.
Right.
I recommend. It is a brutal movie, by the way.
Melanie Griffith.
A young
Was
Melanie
she
Griffith.
also in an 80s film called Body Double?
I don't know.
Is that Melanie Griffith?
It might
I
be.
could be lying.
She was in Working Girl.
Anyway, guys, go look up Body Double. Check out that movie.
look up this sculpture of this robot.
Whatever it's called.
I'll find it.
I would like to find it. Not right now, Jerry.
All right.
All right. Last one. You want to just get into this final one, Jerry?
Sure thing.
The opportunity for anyone to live within a total environment of his or her choice with mandatory adherence to the aesthetic and behavioral standards of same. Okay. He writes, privately owned, operated, and controlled environments as an alternative to homogenized and polyglot ones. The freedom to insularize oneself within a social milieu of personal well-being. An opportunity to feel, see, and hear that which is most aesthetically pleasing without interference from those who would pollute or detract from that option. Wow.
Again.
He got real wordy at the last minute here on this last one. He wants us to be able to have basically Westworld or an AI, a metaverse of some kind.
Did not get that.
He wants to be immersed in a total environment of our choosing. like
Lawnmower Man.
a freedom to insularize oneself within a social milieu of personal well-being, an opportunity to feel, see, and hear that which is most aesthetically pleasing without interference from those who would pollute or detract from that option.
Wow. So he wants a holodeck.
Yeah, he wants...
I didn't get that.
We should be completely surrounded or just live, as he says, within a total environment of our choice.
That's not
a total environment.
Not realistic.
Of course it's not realistic, but sure, it's a nice idea.
Well, my apartment, I've decorated how I like it. When I close the door, that's my thing. That's my social. That's everything I want it to look like.
But surely you're subject to the interference of those who could pollute or detract.
If I let them in, yeah.
Well, or if you let them in, or you have a landlord who sets limits and can control. Sure. You've got noises and distractions from outside. You've got any number of these limitations.
You're taking this as law. I'm being a little bit more rubbery with it, you know. So that he
uses words like live within a total environment with mandatory adherence to the aesthetic and behavioral standards.
Essentially, he's asking for a sex robot and a holodeck.
Yeah,
from Star Trek.
Yeah, like a hyper realistic. The best thing I can think of is Westworld.
I'm thinking Matrix.
Yeah, sure. Maybe the Matrix. Yeah, a controllable Matrix.
Yeah, Westworld was like that. Westworld was a good show. The first season was.
Yeah,
but I didn't even look at it like that. I just looked at it as like a living quarters. But the only reason I said it wasn't realistic is because I had to leave
it's either that. Again, I don't know. I'm just interpreting. To go your way, basically, it might just be like, okay, decorate your house how you like.
Yeah, it's sort of what I'm saying.
But I mean, that doesn't feel like Anton.
It just feels, to me, it feels like...
when is he as casual as, just decorate your way?
Not decorate, but like form your environment, which I have.
Yeah.
But I didn't even look at it from a perspective of everything has to be the way you want it.
Right.
If it's that militaristic, then that is absolutely not feasible. Even in a fantasy world, there is something. Now everyone else's fantasies are going to bump into each other.
Yeah.
Like say if they're my sex.
Yeah, and the way he even says it, he goes privately owned, operated, and controlled environments as an alternative to homogenized and polyglot ones. And I don't know, I could be a fucking asshole, but polyglot, what kind of word is that? I believe that's just like using multiple languages. That's like rather than having to deal with homogenized environments and ones where people speak multiple languages, you have these privately owned, operated, and controlled environments.
He wants pre-Tower of Babel?
Yeah, you get everything, just your exact perfect way without the possibility for interference from those who would detract from it.
This shit was so easy to, like, if it's just you by yourself taking it from face value, it is easy to say, I agree with a lot of this. This is not.
It gets wild.
It's not good.
Well, yeah, I suppose if he had this way, and people had the option for this.
I had to look up polyglot.
Am I crazy? Is it just like using multiple languages?
I believe so. I don't remember. Again, I
don't know what context that meant for him. I don't know.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That can't be right.
I think that's what he's looking for.
Fantasyland.
Of course, it's Fantasyland, but that's what he wants. And if you adhere to the Church of Satan, if you will call yourself a Satanist, as the Church of Satan defines it, meaning, a follower of the Church of Satan philosophy, then you have to align with this. And if you don't, you're not a true Satanist.
No, I'm not, because I know other people who speak other languages. Yeah. I want to speak another language.
Yeah, and if you're out there, if you're a person that pretty much likes LaVey's philosophy, if you like LaVey, if you like the Satanic Bible, if you like one or two or three or four of these things in this essay, and you don't vibe with any one of them, then please visit outsidersatanism.com, because you're not a part of Anton's deal. He says, and they say, you are not a true Satanist. Their words for you, as they like to use very fucking often, like crazed repeaters, is pseudo-Satanists. The nerdiest of the bunch will call you pseudos. The pseudos,
You can't say neo?
Yeah.
Neo-Satanist?
No. So if you disagree, then you are not able to count yourself among the Church of Satan elite.
If you just read this on face value, yeah, you can say it's all good, man. Yeah. I'm a Satanist. I'm whatever the hell this is now. But a sex robot, I didn't even look at it that way.
Yeah.
I'm
sex robots in a fucking complete total environment for you and your sex robot.
This is fucking Metropolis, man. This is insane.
It's wild.
That can't be right. I got to read this.
I'm telling you, it's either that or it's so plain that it's too plain for Anton. It's like, yeah, just decorate your house the way you want.
That's what I thought.
Like, that doesn't feel nearly. Does that sound like Anton at all?
No.
It's too simple.
That's insane.
So, total environments, guys.
Real quick, the name of that sculpture is "Can't Help Myself." It was made by Sun Yan.
Can't help myself. Right.
Yeah.
Fun.
You've seen that thing.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I will go look at it again. All right. And LaVey ends the essay with this little bit at the end. This is the encapsulated version of the current thrust of satanic advocacy. So when someone asks you, well, what do Satanists do? You will be qualified to tell him. So even that short ending bit raises some questions. Are these things really the current thrust of satanic advocacy? Nowadays, if someone asks, what do Satanists do? Would your answer ever really be that you advocate for robot slaves and living in artificial environments? Like that is the thrust?
It's funny you say, hey, we're not weak. But to be able to form a human relationship is weak as fuck. And I know, I take that back, actually. Some people can't. I take that back. That was out of line.
Well, no, I mean, it's definitely going to cause problems.
Yeah.
You take a whole bunch of people en masse, and individually they are all isolating into a total environment. They've got their robot sex slave and a total environment of their choosing.
Can we be clear? It isn't always going to be the sex slave.
Yes, it is.
If you're in a committed relationship, do you think you need a sex slave?
Are you serious? Jerry, you're going to give that robot the business.
I had a fleshlight, and that was about the only slavery
See?
I've ever had.
That thing's dumb as fuck, and you still wanted it.
I wanted that thing.
That thing only did one thing.
And it was great.
Imagine an elite, like technologically advanced slave, as Anton puts it.
I would not have a slave.
Well, I'm just saying, you're not going to have this.
I would fall
in a world where you did have it.
in love with the sex robot.
Of course. Who needs somebody talking back to him? You just get this robot.
I would never strike the sex robot.
No. I mean, you could just tell the robot that they like it, and then they would. This robot likes to get hit. This robot likes to get called names or treated poorly. All you got to do is, you probably order it that way, or you just switch that whatever. You buy that pack that installs and downloads from the cloud. I want the little pack that says my robot likes to get slapped up and grabbed by the hair. Now it does.
Oh.
Okay?
God, I hope I'm
This one wants a spanking.
I hope I don't live long enough that I have to deal with that shit. No, can I put my...
What, you don't want to spank up your robot?
If I'm selling a car, they're going to say, where can I put my sex robot? And they're going to put it in the trunk to test it.
Yeah.
The golf clubs and the sex bot are going to go right next to each other.
That's right.
Fucking gross, dude.
Well, don't say gross, Jerry. This is people's desires. Some people desire this. It's their kink, and you can't kink shame.
I can't kink shame a sex bot?
No. You cannot kink shame anyone.
No. I'll kink shame a public sex bot. If you keep that shit in your room, like the real doll, great. Go ahead, do it.
Well, no, you won't even be in anybody's area because it's their total environment.
Right.
You're gonna taint their environment.
I'm gonna have to go to someone's house and sit in their holodeck while the fucking sex bot and the fucking guys from Star Wars with the
yeah. Or maybe again, we've mentioned this before. Maybe it's just the ending of WALL-E.
Wow. Oh,
At the end of WALL-E, where everyone is plugged in, and you're just plugged into your little matrix or whatever, and you live in your total environment. And
what? I did not see this show going this way.
Well, yeah, this is where we're at.
This is why people like us. That's why people like me on this show, because I'm like, what the fuck? No.
Yeah.
No, Satanists are evil.
Yeah, so I'm not, I talk to Satanists in real life and on the internet, and I get around to some of these different satanic spaces, and I see what people are doing, Church of Satan people, all the other ones, and I really don't see a ton of discussion or any enthusiastic thrust in this direction with the total environments and robot slaves. I don't see it. I've seen some discussions. I've seen a couple. And if you bring it up, somebody will have an opinion, I guess.
I will have an opinion.
But I don't really see people worried about this. Like, this is like, come on, guys, we're really pushing for this. This is the satanic thrust that we're into. This is our advocacy.
No one's building their own satanic sex robot.
But again, Church of Satan people, if you're not aligned with this, You're not a true Satanist.
And I won't beleaguer the point. If you're used to slapping your sex slave robot,
Yeah.
just beating the shit out of it,
Sure.
why wouldn't that bleed into real life?
Well, yeah, you wouldn't even have to worry about it bleeding into real life because who needs
gonna
an
get
old
tired of that
school
bot.
who needs an old school human partner when you've got this thing?
Yeah.
Why go through the trouble? What am I going to do? Get on an app, find somebody to date? What do I got to buy them dinner and stuff now?
That's the human
I got to
experience.
drive across town.
That's the human experience. That's what we're here for.
Well, yeah, you're telling me, but these people, Anton's looking for this.
I don't think many people. I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah.
I really hope this isn't the case.
So, do you have any real critique of these ideas? We've talked about the sex robot a bit. I don't know. Do you feel like these are really 5 necessary things?
I think on the surface, I think if you don't scrape away, I think if you don't sand the spackle, man, if you just leave it, if you leave it smooth or even just rough in edges and all that stuff, it's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's a good 5-point thing. But fuck, once you dive into it, well, it's just the third 1 and 2 are okay. I get it. 3, 4, 5, that's just personal shit.
That's the way you break it down, really?
I guess. I mean, we said, hey, don't do that. Something happened, like you said, something happened to this cat in the third one, which was the separation of church and state, which I agree with. And then the fourth and the fifth one, what are we talking about?
They do get a little wacky.
But on the outset, it looks like I'm decorating my apartment. I'd like an assistant. Well, he used a slave, which fucks it all up. That's the thing.
I'd love an assistant.
Yeah.
Slave has a connotation, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's not something.
And it's not like he used it by an accident.
No, he put it in quotes.
He wanted not that one. He just actually wanted technologically feasible slavery.
The one I have has as slaves in quotes.
Are you sure? You better check it out.
I'm gonna look at it right now.
He says technologically feasible slavery.
Power is in there.
Power is in quotes. Slavery is just his real language.
Well, fuck that.
That's what I'm saying.
Listen, dude, I can't be a white dude and say I have a slave. It's fucking out of line.
It's not going to work out.
It ain't going to work out for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. Fucking anyone shouldn't have a slave. What are we doing here? You can't normalize slavery anymore.
Well, yeah, I guess not, Jerry.
I'm a good person.
I'm going to tweet about it.
Don't tweet that.
No, I'm going to tweet that I don't like slaves because I'm a good person.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do virtue signaling on Twitter.
Is that what it is?
You go on there and you tell
X
people,
now,
X rather, or TikTok or any of those places. TikTok now is good for it.
I can't imagine looking into a camera and saying, I don't like slavery. Like, how stupid. Yeah, I don't.
No, you have to do it, Jerry, or else you're not anti-racist. Don't get me started.
All right.
But all right, have we covered this? Have we basically covered this?
I think we covered it.
Guys, this was Pentagonal Revisionism, a 5-point program by Anton LaVey. It is a core of the LaVeyan satanic philosophy. So there it is. If you are a follower of the Church of Satan and their philosophy, this is what you have to be into.
It is the satanic sex Starship Enterprise. That's what he wants. He wants the Star Trek.
He wants it.
And that's all it leads up to. This is legitimately Star Trek.
Now you're worked up about it.
Romulans.
It's just all hit you at once.
Fucking Anton LaVey's a Romulan.
Guys, listen.
Fucking Christ.
If you have a moment out there, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. Stay safe out there, and hail Satan.
Schweden hebben. Hebel fui,